Hey, Yeji's my bias, and I think she did the best. Alright? Argue with me. We're breaking down another dance practice today, and this time it's to ITZY's Mr. Vampire. I want to break this one down because I just want to highlight how clean and just, how clean ITZY is and how well they match each other's energies. And I like the song too, so let's go and break this one down. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's go and roll it, baby. What I like about ITZY is their stage presence. Their stage presence basically is like, we command the stage in the way that they perform. Even though there's only 4 of them right now, that's what I really like about them. So in this dance practice, you're gonna notice a lot of formation changes and effects that help them stand out when there's only 4 of them. And here's the other thing too, they match each other's textures and energies really well. So I want to go back right before we even get to the chorus, is like this combo that they do where they're hitting the snares. Pay attention to the timing, but also pay attention to the speed of how they rotate that one move where their wrist is kind of like turned. And then at the same time, they hit their pictures and lines really well. And so because they retain all that information and they all do it the same, but also different at the same time, is what makes them just like really professional dancers, because they can be clean, but they can add their own little spice to it where they don't have to look exactly the same. You don't want to look like robots on stage. You want to still give that personality as a performer to be able to like, oh, I like the way that Yeji does that. I like the way that Yuna does that, or Chaeryeong, or Ryujin. It's like those things matter because they're performers at the end of the day. I like how they can stay clean, but also still give their personality with their moves. Especially that rotation part. They all did that exactly the same time. And with the chorus, love how they attack aggressively and then slow it down a little bit. Love that A part. And I think this is probably my favorite part of the chorus, is the hip part, because it is actually a pretty hard move to do, if that makes sense. So I like that in the chorus they aggressively attack the beginning of it and then they slow it down, and then they go into this like part of the song where it says hey, and then they kind of attack the camera a little bit, or they attack the camera fast and they slow down on that part. So they're kind of matching the way that the song is saying hey. So it goes hey, kind of like that. And so you'll notice that they fill out that entire ad-lib. And I don't know if it's like an ad-lib or anything, but I'll put up the footage like right now so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. And then they kind of speed it up again with more arm choreo. And then from there, they move on to this like hip combo where you have a constant move. Like they're constantly moving on their hips and their footwork, but at the same time, they're doing choreo with their arms where they're like kind of like doing something like this. That's essentially a polyrhythm because you're doing 2 things at once. Essentially one thing is like a constant motion. One part of the choreo is going to be constant motion while you're doing something different with another part of your body. In this case, their constant motion is going to be the hips and the footwork, and then their different speed of motion is going to be their hands. They're doing something else with their hands that's not the same speed as the hips and the footwork, which in this case, your brain might get jumbled up and be like, whoa, what am I doing? So yeah, I struggle with polyrhythms a lot just because you have to think about a lot of things at the same time when you're dancing. And so what I like about the section after the chorus is they kind of play around with effects a little bit and they still move around a lot. I like that ripple effect where they single out Yeji. And then I'm going to go back to this part right here where I think it was Ryujin and Yuna spinning around while Yeji and Chaeryeong were on the sides. Like that window switch where they're not facing where both of them are just like facing the back. I think there's it's Yuna and Chaeryeong, and then they go into this like spinning effect while Yeji and Chaeryeong are on the sides. This is cool. It's a good way to use few dancers. There's literally only 4 of them, so you gotta get creative with your effects and your staging. Like that diagonal formation because they hit double bases to get Young and Ryujin back to the floor. And I don't know if Yuna hits like anything. I think she just hits a snare. I do like the camera work here. And what's cool about this section in the chorus, in this second part of the chorus, is that they do it in different directions instead of towards the camera. At least all four of them. You'll see Ryujin doing it towards the back. Oh yeah, and then Yuna will do it kind of towards everyone in their respective sides. I think Young will be obviously Young is the only one facing us. Kind of like how they did that. Gives us a different vibe from the first time. And then I know I've been pausing a lot, but I just want to point out these details. What's cool about this is they actually condense to this line formation, and then they do a reveal with Ryujin to say "bite me." That was cool. And then again, they attack the chorus essentially the same way as the first time around. Hey. And again, pay attention to their hands, how they're all the same. Here's the polyrhythm I'm talking about with the hips. And what I like about them too is that they're not forcing their facials. They're not forcing their facials, essentially. Like they know, they've been doing this for a while, so they know how to perform. But it's not like they're trying to have all these animated or flamboyant facials to the point where it's like, whoa, that's a little too much. They do it. It's well balanced where they know when to perform it and when to turn it down a notch and when to actually turn it up a notch. It depends on the song, right? I'm gonna go back to this section because it's this is a cool like reveal where we get a close up of Young and they do this like nice visual effect on the snare. Nice diagonal formation with some angles and clean lines. This was a cool formation change, and I don't think I caught this the first time around. I'm gonna go back a little bit. They kind of do this like zipper thing or like zigzag. It's kind of hard to tell with the camera angle. That was cool. Little partner work. I love that switch up. I think that's one of my favorite moments in the dance practice is that switch up, is that you're doing all this, you do these formation changes and then do a little bit of partner work and then do a switch up where you kind of single out Yuna hitting that snare. In this part right here, they all hit the same textures and they follow after her. Love that. So she does the full extension at the first time around and then they follow her after. Little catch-up effect or roll-off effect if you want to call it that. And I think this next part, before I even play it, I cannot unsee the trend from TikTok. It's like it's a song and they overlaid it with this last part of the practice. But I think it's the best part of the practice, to be honest. They all still do it exactly the same. However, each member is still stylized in their own way. Where like you can see the personalities shine through each member without overdoing the entire group, if that makes sense. Queens. So I'm gonna go back to that last combo because I want to point out kind of like why this is important and shit. So this last combo, everyone does the footwork, the textures, the speed of how like everything needs to be done was exactly the same. But when you watch each member, they kind of do it slightly different from each other, and that's what gives the personalities of each member and how they dance. Like they attack each move a little bit differently, but at the same time they're all on the same wavelength so that they don't make that part, in this case, dirty, because you still want to hit those details exactly the same so that way everyone looks synchronized and clean. But I love how if you watch it 4 times and you watch each member, they do it like somewhat a little bit different from each other, and that's what I love, because they still, you want to still have personality within your dancing regardless. Hey, Yeji's my bias and I think she did the best. Alright? Argue with me. And I think with this last part, with Ryujin's section, I kind of want to point this out too before we end this, is how she's not overly smiling for that part, but it's more of like a smirk, like a big smirk, if that makes sense. And so I like that. Man, ITZY, they're just queens, alright? If y'all are ITZY stans, let me know in the comments down below. This was a fun practice to break down just because they're just great performers, and this song has been getting stuck in my head since I started breaking this down, or like watching it a bunch in order to break it down for y'all. So if y'all are ITZY stans, you know, go ahead and subscribe. I'm gonna go and break down their other dance practices. Peace.